Come now, my friends, let's gather around this fire. Bring your stories and let's say a while. Today the sun will rise in the sky. Another hope and dream to be alive. Time can pass 1,000 seasons and never give up on its reasons. This new day calls your name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song to sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are one. We've come so far. We are breaking through. We're standing on the edge of a better view. Who will you be? Don't give up this fight. Tomorrow starts today. All we need is time. Time can pass 1,000 seasons and never give up on its reasons. This new day calls your name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song to sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are
Hello. I'm a bit nervous today because Gretchen has taught me twice. I'm supposed to do it by myself now. And she has a meeting at 11, which I'm supposed to go to too, but we'll be fine. So today we will be talking about Ecuador. Isn't that interesting? Oh, and before I start, I would like to encourage all of you to go to YL Drop because 2 days ago, they uploaded a new video and they interviewed Karen Boren. Karen is a historian in Young Living and she knows everything well, she's learning too about the history, when Gary started, what he did, and now they're going through all the transcripts that Mary had found in Gary's office, and they're trying to organize all the notes that Gary has taken. Some dated back to 1983, because Gary would write down everything that he was learning. So they're organizing all of that. And Karen talked about the 13 oils that Gary brought back that we talked about in the last lesson. So I encourage all of you to go there. I'm going to post a link into the group this afternoon so that you can easily find it. It's super interesting. And thank you, Gretchen. Well, we've got a few people online now. If you're here, let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from. I don't know the time over there in the US, so it's always going to be 10:30 on the Thursday morning on the Thursday morning. So if you work out the time, it's probably, I think it's MST Mountain Time, 8:30 on Wednesday night. Otherwise, please do check before you tune in, because otherwise you can always watch the replay. Okay, so without further, oh, hi, Bill. Hi again. Hi, Mary. All right, without further delay, we will start, because today we also have a lot of information to cover. And originally, this Ecuador class was only supposed to be one class. And then when I was making the presentation, I realized there was a lot of information about Ecuador. So I've split it into two. Today, we'll talk about how he built the farm. And hi, Jesse. And 9:30 your time, Central Time. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, you guys will have to work it out. And and then the next class, we will be talking about the Young Living Academy, the Nova Vita Wellness Center, and a little extra. So today we will start with why Gary went to Ecuador. Let us share screen. Got tons of stuff opened in my, all right, okay. This is the one. We've got some videos to show also. It will be interesting. All right. Oopsie. How do I move this thing up? Okay. I think this is what I should do. Maybe. All right. Oops. Okay. I don't know how to move these things around. All right. Okay. You guys are seeing this, right? So this is the one with Ecuador. And this is actually how Gary eventually got sick that led to his death. So I'm going to go over that in the 5th class also. We're going to read out the letter that updated us. But for now, we will just look at what he did in Ecuador and why he was brought to Ecuador. Okay? Does this work? There we go. So this is a video that I found on the Ecuador farm. I have been scouting the internet on a video that really show you what the farm looks like. A lot of the videos on the farm isn't very comprehensive, in my opinion. And so the one that looks, I feel like, would really show you what the farm looks like would be this video on Platinum Retreat. I think it was from 2019. Hi, Nicole from Florida. So I'm going to play this video. So the point of me playing this video is I want to show you what the farm looked like. And if you look at the internet, I don't think the other videos give enough credit, like show enough of it. And if you look for photos, it doesn't really show what we feel like when we're in the farm. So I hope that this video will show you, I would say 60% of what the farm actually is. Okay. Yes. All right. So okay, there we go.
Every time I step onto one of the farms, I can't really believe how much you feel Gary with you. But I had no idea what this farm was going to feel like.
I've been to Silver Retreat, Gold Retreat, this is the Platinum Retreat, and being here in person and seeing what Young Living is doing, the whole purpose over profit is real.
So to be here is a really important reminder of what it takes to create these oils.
You can go to the farm and actually see how they plant it. And you realize all these things are like a symphony that work together. So it's your oil story every single time that you pop open that cap.
When you come down here and you really see the passion and the love of all of the people working on the farms and what happens in order to make these oils, you appreciate them on such a greater level.
I just started thinking about how many years it took Gary to literally get in his bulldozer and start relocating the trees and then tilling the ground and then start planting.
Everything's connected. One thing leads to another. There's a reason for everything. There's a purpose for it. And to be able to be a part of that and see that has been one of the best experiences of my life.
For me to feel the energy from something, I need to connect with people and I need to be around other people who are feeling that same energy. So being at the school during this retreat, it was life-changing.
They open these magnificent gates and you walk through and the children are lined up cheering for you.
They're clapping and cheering. There was this little group of kiddos with signs with their names saying they're looking for their sponsor, and that was awesome. They were waiting on the Young Living member that was there that had sponsored them.
You get to meet the kids and you get to see where your money goes and to see that you are creating a ripple effect across the entire world through the foundation.
It's not just a statement, it's not just pretty words on a paper. They're living it and they're making a huge impact here.
It's really hard for me to describe. I think gratitude's not the right word. It was a lot of, just a lot of love.
You know, I've been looking around the farm and seeing all these sabo trees, but this giant tree to my right that really drew me in. And I sat down, I took a breath, I listened to what was happening behind me. I just connected with the earth and like took a moment for myself. It's so empowering.
Being on Platinum Retreat with such a tiny group of people, it's given us the opportunity to meet so many other people. And that is something that for me is super powerful, and Young Living gives us that opportunity.
I can't believe this trip. That is just the truth.
Cool.
I can't.
Very cool. All right, let's go.
So, actually, this farm is 2,000 acres. When I was there, I went there twice for my gold retreat. Back then, the gold retreat was still going to Ecuador, and I went there for my platinum retreat. So I've been there twice. And when we were there, the first time Gary was there, the first time when I went to platinum retreat, Gary was there. The second time, Gary couldn't go because he was building the Northern Lights farm. And I remember Gary told us that it was 2,000 acres, and I could not actually understand how big that was until I made this presentation. And it's actually, I think it's a football. No, I don't know how many football court. But anyway, you guys can look it up. 2,000 acres. I don't know how big that is. I remember when we were on the, is it, what do you call it, ATV? It took us, I think, half an hour to go from one end to the other. So if you want to like drive around the whole farm, it took like 2 hours. It was really big. It was really, really big. It wasn't something that you can walk from one end to the other on foot. That's how I felt, okay? Anyway, you guys can look out how big 2,000 acres is. So what actually brought Gary to Ecuador? A lot of people thought it's because of the Amazon forest, because of the farm. It's actually that back in 2005, Gary was invited by a very, very famous doctor. His name is Dr. Edgar Rodas. He was the dean of the medical school of Soy University in Ecuador, and he was invited to establish an essential oil medical course curriculum. So Dr. Rodas, he's now passed away, bless his heart, but he has been a very world-renowned surgeon. I'll give you a little bit of his background. And he was actually invited to talk in University of Utah, and that's where he met Gary. And because Gary, in fact, in Utah, in the medical world, he is very, very famous on his research on essential oils and it's the medical use of naturopathic herbs and essential oils. So a lot of the established, very well established doctors would go seek him out, especially before Young Living was so famous. Okay, so a bit about Dr. Rodas. I think by sharing who Dr. Rodas was, we get a glimpse of what kind of Gary was, what kind of person Gary was. You know how it takes one to know one, right? For somebody who was like Dr. Rodas, who is so well qualified, and he would invite Gary to his own university to write up a curriculum for an essential oil department for the medical school. I think that's gigantic, right? So Dr. Rodas, he was born in Ecuador. He's an Ecuadorian. And then he founded, in 1967, he founded the hospital, Santa Ines. Oh, I don't speak Spanish, so maybe I will be pronouncing some of these words wrong. Please excuse me. And then he was the principal professor of surgery. And then he was the president of the Ecuadorian Surgical Society. That is big, right? And then he was a visiting medical professor for the Stanford University, for how many years? 1990, 91, 2008, 2010, 2011, 2013, 2014. That's 7 years of being a visiting professor for the Stanford University, which probably have like the best medical school in the entire world, right? And he was teaching there. So, and then back in 1990, he founded the Cinderendas Foundation, which is a mobile surgery unit for low income and to serve in Ecuador. So he loves serving the underprivileged people. He believes that's how they can get real medical surgery to help them. Right. And then in 1998 to the year 2000, he was the Minister of Public Health of Ecuador. Okay. And then he was also in 1998 and 1990, he was president of the Executive Committee of Pan American Health Organization, 2003 to 2009. He was the founder and the dean of the University of Azuay Medical School, which is the school that he invited Gary to set up the medical aromatic essential oil medical department. That's what he wanted to do. Later on, that didn't happen because they found out it was just too very difficult. The procedures and the applying and the verification of the information was not as how they thought it could be. So, and then 2013 to 2014, he was the commissioner of the Lancet Commission on Global Surgery. The Lancet is an authoritative research institute, you'd say. So when we read the Lancet paper, it's always really, really good. Right. And Dr. John Miera, he's the director of the program of global surgery and social changes at the Harvard Medical School. And he was also the chair of the Lancet Commission. His comment on Dr. Rodas was he was a valuable addition. He had tremendous practical experience providing care to the poor and marginalized people of Ecuador for decades. So he's very, very well known and very, very well respected in the medical surgery industry in the entire world. Right. Okay. So he invited Gary to start the university essential oil curriculum, but it couldn't be done. But Dr. Rodas continued to invite Gary to work with him in the mobile surgery unit with the Cinderendas Foundation. And then Gary followed him into the deep jungles of the Amazon forest to work for it. And he learned the healing power of many unknown aromatic plants while he was in the Amazon forest. He brought with him his microscope, and he invited Tamara Packer to work with him in Ecuador. And he used the live blood analysis that we talked about in the previous classes to analyze these herbs. And one of Dr. Edgar Rodas' famous quotation was, "Don't let anyone tell you it cannot be done. There's always a way." And I love this quote because this actually really shows who he was. And it's so much like something that Gary would say, right? So this is a photo of the surgery mobile unit. They put it in a semi-truck and they set it up in a way that they can be, the people can have surgery done. And it's all for free. So I think it's really meaningful, right? And so Gary actually worked alongside Dr. Rodas for 3 years in the mobile unit as a surgical assistant and do surgical surgeries, right? And I remember Gary told me in person that he worked in the surgical unit. He has done surgeries for people. And I mean, working alongside Dr. Rodas, it's probably one of the best experience any surgeon would imagine being able to do, right? So that's really, really cool. I thought that was very, very important information to share with everybody because unfortunately, the people on the internet, they don't know who Gary was. So there's a lot of slander, there's a lot of untruth, there's a lot of myths around Gary Young. In fact, there shouldn't be any myths because he's one of the most transparent person I've ever known. Young Living is one of the most transparent company I've ever known. There's no hidden things. There's no, if you ask, they give you the answers. The only thing would be, there's probably too much information. They would have to dig through a lot of the information to find the stuff you need. Otherwise, if you dig, you will find it. And so I felt this was really important information to put in this presentation so that everybody know that Gary was actually very, very well qualified, even as a surgeon, right? Okay, so it was really cool. I thought it's very, very cool. And then I also found some old videos of Gary going into the Amazon forest and working with the local people. This is a really cute video that I love to share, and we can watch it.
Headed deep into the jungle on the northern frontier of Ecuador, going into the Colombian rainforest where there's a lot of guerrilla warfare because of the drug trade, but where it's the most dangerous is where the best oils grow.
Enséñale tu músculo. Ahí va. ¿Cómo es?
Quizás si estamos trabajando mucho, tendremos la oportunidad para sembrar una relación y todas esas cosas, o paga o algo así, bueno, cualquier cosa, pero no estamos.
Yeah, eh? Now, Mike, tell them when they kiss their girlfriend, it tastes good.
Cuando besa a su mujer, a su novia, bueno, ahora se sabe muy muy bien, ¿sabes?
Wow, grande.
Camilla. We're deep inside the jungle now. We came upriver about 45 to 50 miles, and then we got out of the boats and came into the jungle. What was an old logging road where they used to cut wood. As we're exploring for plants, we're probably about 3-4 miles in from the river now, inside the jungle, and if I had an external mic, you could hear the music of the birds and the macaws in the trees. It's quite spectacular. Guys, we have a very interesting leaf configuration. You see how it starts here coming off of the main limb, and then we get two runners coming off to the side, and it goes down to the next junction and then divides and makes two, and then divides and makes two, and divides and makes two. It's a very, very fascinating structure here. So good. Our next $1 million plant.
I remember when I was watching that video, I was like curious, right? So I love watching everything about Gary and reading everything about him. And when I was watching the video, what I did not expect was him looking at the plant and then chewing it, right? Putting it in his mouth. I literally, when I was watching it, my jaw literally dropped. I was like, huh, what? I thought our mothers taught us not to eat any plant in the wild because it might be poison. And he obviously was risking his life for us because he could smell the aromatics in the leaves, and then he chewed on it to really see. Because remember how last time we talked about his nose, right? He can actually tell all the compounds, all the constituents in each oil. So when he's chewing onto the plant, he could actually know what kind of constituents that plant has and what oil will come out of it. But obviously, we shouldn't be doing that. And I'm not telling anybody to go into the Amazon jungle and just look at plants and then when it's aromatic, chew on it, right? It's not even safe. It's insane to me. So I thought by showing that video, it would really show you a part of who Gary really was, right? And then I love these photos. The one on the left, obviously, I got out from the book Seek to Seal. I'm so glad he's got all these things documented, like all these videos and all these books. And I remember this photo I took out of the D. Gary Young blog. And I remember I actually saw the video of it because John Wetton shared it. I think last year when the Crown Diamond of Singapore, Kai Tan, invited John Wetton to share some of the experience with Gary. And this was a video that John Wetton showed because it's a great experience. They were in the Amazon forest. John was with him. They had these tents. It's an Amazon jungle. It's a rainforest. So it obviously was raining all the time. And one night it was just raining so horrendously. And that their tents were all filled with water. Gary came out of it in the morning, and I saw the video. The video was like he opened the tent, and then he took out the shirt, and then he rang it, and he goes, "I thought these tents were supposed to be waterproof." And I thought that was really funny. And I imagine myself sleeping in a tent like that and being like soaked in water. I would not want to go back. But Gary went back multiple times in search of aromatic plants. Like I would not. I don't even like sleeping in tents, right? So anyway, I'm a city girl, so I thought that was very interesting to share. If you like it, give me some likes and give me some reaction, some hearts, give Gary some love. I'm sure he's listening. All right, and these are actually photos of I got out from the book. This was the original photo. This was what it looked like, and this was where the distillery is. And this was a photo that Gary took when they just bought the land. And I remember I saw somewhere that Gary told Mary that, hey, you know what, Mary, I think we're not here to start a university program. I think we're here because I need to come and find aromatic plants. And so one day they were still in Ecuador, and one day Gary came home and told Mary, hey, Mary, I just bought a farm. And Mary was like, what? Would you like to come look at it with me? And then Mary's like, okay. So they went, and then this was what Mary saw. And Mary saw a jungle, 2 acres worth of it. And Gary saw a farm, and Gary was standing there on top of the mountain, telling Mary, very excited, where do you think we should put the distillery? And then Mary points to the right, there. And that's where the distillery now is. And then Gary said, I'm going to put the distillery there. I'm going to put the pond there. I'm going to put our house there, blah, 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 blah. He started to have all these ideas, right? And so this was actually originally not there. I'm going to show you another photo of it. This is actually a lake that Gary made so that we can get water, right? And then, so this is an aerial photo. Let me see. This is a distillery. This is Gary's house. Okay. This is Gary's house. There's a swimming pool. And this is distillery. There's covered, because sometimes some of the plants need to be covered after being harvested before they get distilled. And then this is the wellness center. And this is the wellness center. There's one floor and then one floor down because it's built on a slope. And then this is the restaurant. The restaurant sits on the lake. And this is the lake where the kids will play on the jet ski. And these are ylang ylang trees. These are all ylang ylang trees. Okay. So he turned this into this. Isn't that insane? It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. So, and I remember when I was in my first, I think it was my first diamond retreat, and he just bought the land in Fort Nelson, and he showed us an aerial photo of a jungle of trees, and he was very excited, standing there. I'm going to put the distillery here. I'm going to put the house there. I'm going to build a visitor center. In the visitor center, there's going to be a museum. There's going to be places where the distributors can stay. And I'm going to there's going to be a hall. Like, you can really see him seeing it in his mind. And I still remember, well, I'll talk about it in the Fort Nelson class. And I still remember sitting there looking at those trees and thinking, who is ever going to go there in the middle of nowhere and you want to build a visitor center? Well, I'll talk about it in the Northern Lights class, which was very interesting. Okay, so I get a glimpse of seeing a jungle and not seeing anything, but he saw everything. And you can really see it in his eyes when he talked about it. There was fire and he was so passionate. It was really contagious. Okay, and then I also got these from the book. And because it's a rainforest, and imagine if you want to build a farm in the middle of the rainforest, who would do that? Who would have to cut down the trees and build roads, but it's always damp. Look at the swamps. And look how the trucks get stuck in the mud. And then they have to build this to make sure that the water don't fall down in the places where they have just dug out. It's just insane. It's just insane. You have to get the book, because reading the book, you get a glimpse of what he went through and why did he not give up, right? I remember when I was in my gold retreat, he said when he was building the distillery, he also had problems cooling the water. Yeah, the water wasn't cooling fast enough. And he had to find something. I can't remember what he did, but eventually he bought a refrigerator and he used the refrigerator to cool the water down because the weather was so hot and the steam wasn't cooling fast enough to help with the condensation of the oil. Okay. And then in that farm, because he had 2,000 acres, he could build a glass house where he can study plants. I remember those oregano placenthrus leaves were as big as my face. It's crazy. And so what he did was he would grow oregano placenthrus here, and then he would study the roots. And then in this book, you will see that these are the frequency treated seeds, and these are the untreated. Obviously, they were much weaker. The root was much shorter, untreated and treated, you see? And then he used also biogenesis treated soil. And then he tried the frequency treated and biogenic treated soil to grow. It's very obvious. The one that have been treated, frequency treated and biogenics treated, grew much stronger and much better. So he's way up before everybody else was doing this kind of stuff, right? So these photos were probably from 2008, right? Because 2005, he bought the land. So these photos are probably from 2008. So he was very excited. When I first joined Young Living, he would talk about this all the time because this was just what he had found. So that was 2011. And so my first experience with Gary teaching was on the seed to seal. So that's a lot of how I started with Young Living. My education was he would really relentlessly, if that's the correct word, explain to us what he did to make sure and how he studied the plants to make sure that the plants are the most healthy, right? And the problem with the plants nowadays is people don't know what to do with the soil. And so I was doing this supplement presentation and I was doing my research, and somebody did this test in Japan, and they tested the spinach, the vitamin C content nutrient level of the spinach from 50 years ago, compare them to 10 years ago, they're like 8 times more vitamin C than back like 50 years ago than currently, right? So in order to eat the same, to absorb the same amount of nutrients, you need to be eating 5 times of what you used to eat, but you can't do that. The food that we're eating now, it's just not nutritious enough, but that's another topic for another day. Now we're talking about these plants. So even if you were to get essential oils from the weaker plants, I'm sure the quality would not be as good as the ones that you get from the stronger plants, right? And he also had this weather station that he would study. He would use, for the soil, he would use enzymes, nutrients, microbes, and frequency. And then he would also study the weather, the wind, sunlight pressure, daylight hours, humidity, and how they would affect the plant. So what he would do is he would document all the time and all the information. And then he would test the bricks of the bricks of the plant to see how much sugar content, like glucose content, there is. The higher the glucose content, the better the plant. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Okay. So Gary always said, if you don't know your soil, you don't know your oil, right? And so I don't know why this is here. I was just trying to prove a point that we use potassium and nitrogen into the soil. And because for example, we talked about the French lavender last time, was that it was on the verge of extinction because the farmers did not know how to irrigate the soil through the drought. And then some farmers, because they weren't irrigating the soil properly, the lavenders weren't growing well. And they were trying to take shortcuts. And then so they put like chemicals and other stuff in it instead of really allowing it to grow and nurturing the soil. So eventually they actually lost the lavender, right? And also, because in the old days, the plant were wild pick, and then Mr. Field, as you remember from last week, told Gary in 1992, wild picking will soon be a thing of the past because wild picking by hand people cannot make a living from wild picking by hand. So nobody's gonna do it anymore. So one more reason why he should be planting his own plants and having his own farm. That's also one of the reasons why Gary built the farm in Ecuador. And so the question will become, who actually knows the people who grow the essential oil, the aromatic plants to distill for essential oils, who would spend the time to study the soil, right? And how much time would they want to spend on studying the soil and the plant? And how would that affect what they distill, right? So this is actually what Gary did. And now a lot of this wisdom has been passed on to a lot of the people who work at the farm. All the managers know. And then, so for example, Dorado Azul, which we'll talk about in a moment, it has to be distilled immediately after cutting. Ruta, it has to be distilled 5 days after cutting. And oregano, I still remember this oregano. When I was there, the first time, I have a photo to show you. The oregano needs to be distilled 5 days after cutting, but every day it needs to rest under the shade. Every day you need to find somebody to go there and turn it 3 times. Like who do that, right? So he wrote down everything. Like, interestingly, did you know that Palo Santo, you can only distill it 5 years after the plant has died? In fact, sandalwood was also, you can only distill it after the plant, the trunk has died. So when we were in the sandalwood farm, they would tell us that, sometimes part of the tree would die, and then they would cut off that trunk, and then they would distill it, right? And then to test the bricks. So what is this? So this thing that Gary is holding in his hand is a bricks reader. And so what they do is they would cut the plant and then squeeze out the droplet of the oil and then put it on the bricks reader and then read it. So Gary would test them and check their bricks level and mark them and document it every day. And then when it's the highest, that's when they cut the plants. So look at the lavender from 3 different farms. The bricks level is different. And the way that they have to be treated before they distill is different. So from St. Mary's, the shade dry for 62 hours and the bricks level will be 24. And the lavender in Mona, which is in Salt Lake, near Salt Lake, it has to be shade dry for 48 hours and the brick level will be 28. The lavender in France, it has to be cut before the flower goes to seed, dried 76 hours, not 75, not 78, but 76. He was very precise. The brick level will be 21. Okay, so who does that, right? It's insane. And the reason why, and afterwards, they would distill it and then they would test it. For example, eucalyptus blue. The GCMS results of Young Living essential oils are proprietary information. So they will not ever share it. Okay. But he would share this. If you go look at the book, the Seed to Seal book, you will see that he did share some of the percentage of the components on only the exclusive oils that we have in Young Living. Nobody else has eucalyptus blue, so it's okay to share this. So you can see that the eucalyptol in eucalyptus blue has to be 66%. It has to fall within that range in order to be accepted. So for example, this is only 4.1, so this is totally rejected, but the numbers are off. Some of the numbers are quite off, like alpha pinene is 28.9% is off. And then this is also off. So this is rejected. However, we do not need to know the compounds and the proportion and the percentage. We only need to know how to use it. This is Gary and the staff job. So Gary did this and he's got it all written down. Young Living has the largest essential oil constituents GCMS library in the entire world. Back 5 years ago, we had 3 million. I'm sure it's way more now. So we back in 2016, we had 3 million entries and record of the GCMS of different essential oil plants. So we don't have to worry about this. We just know that this all went through every time when they distill an oil. And every time before it's bottled, it's checked. So we don't have to know any of that. We just need to know this is what they do. Okay. So these are all the oils that actually they grow in the Ecuador farm. And I want to talk a little bit about Panchito. So this is Panchito. He actually oversees, he works at the farm right now. Back in the days when Gary first built the farm, he was met with a lot of challenges. A lot of people in the Chongon village were very resistant of this American cowboy coming to buy our land because they were worried that this American cowboy is going to come and overtake our land or ruin our environment. So they were very, very resistant. So when Gary was building the farm, there were times when the local people would go and threaten Gary. A big part of it, I'll talk about it next time during when I talk about the Young Living Academy. But this one, I would like to tell the story of Panchito. Was that when Gary was building the farm, one day, this Ecuadorian local guy came with a machete. And he walked up to Gary and was swinging the machete around and being very angry and tell Gary to leave his land. You have to leave this land. I don't want you American here. I don't want you to ruin our environment. And instead of backing off or being defensive, Gary said, have you ever had a job? And Panchito looked ashamed of himself and quietly and said no. Well, Gary had a translator with him. And Gary said, would you like me to offer you a job? I would like to offer you a job for you to work here at the farm. What about that? And the next day, Panchito was working at the farm. And this is how Gary treated people, right? This is how he treated people. And you can really tell a lot of it from his book, The One Gift. And so Panchito still works at the farm. He oversees a lot of the farming operations. And he is very loyal to Gary. And he was very grateful because he's actually never had a job. And he felt like he was never good enough for a job. But Gary saw right through that and knew that he would be able to give his talent. He would be able to give his time and effort, and he will be a great addition to our farm. And in fact, Gary hired all local people, because this is one of the things that Gary did with all of our farms. One of the things that he wanted to do was he was investing in the farm and giving jobs to the local people and improving their livelihoods, right? I think that's very, very meaningful. And so I'm sure some of you have heard of this. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this set, this Finca Botanica farm kit that came out last convention. I would like to talk a little bit about these oils because this Ecuadorian ylang ylang, it's actually smells very different than the ylang ylang that we normally sell. The ylang ylang that we normally have, it's from Madagascar. This one is from our own Ecuadorian farm. The Madagascar one, it's from a partner farm. And this smells very different. It's actually Gary migrated those ylang ylang trees into from Ecuador to our Ecuador farm. And they have become a different smell and much more powerful. And so, as I was saying, that one of Gary's very main point of building farms in these areas was he wanted to help the poor. So in the Chongqing city, a lot of the families are very, very poor. Most of them are very, very poor. A lot of them have families who have problems with drug use or alcoholism. And so Gary was really wanted to give the jobs and help them with their lives. So this photo, when I was there back in 2012, these houses were very new. It was like 3-4 years new. And these were obviously much older. Like when I was there, it was just a long time ago. So these are newer photos. So you can see that it's a little bit older, but these houses were all built on the farm for our workers. So employees' house building on the farm has 8 individual apartments, each with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, right? So this is what Gary would think, because the Ecuadorians who live in the Chongqing city, a lot of them have a few children. So he would build 3 bedrooms, so 1 for the parents and 1 bathroom for the parents, and then another 2 rooms for the children to share another bathroom. And they also have another common house where the laundry is. I remember that they said, oh, that's a laundry room. So everybody goes there and do their laundry at the end house. And then all the other houses, all these are living in for them. Like they are built for the workers, for farmers to live in. So instead of originally, they would be living in these houses. Okay. So if you go to some of our team members, when they went to the Platinum Retreat, they were also arranged to have home visits for the children they sponsor for the school. And all of them live in houses, huts like this. Some of them with no electricity, many of them with no electricity, no water. This is a photo that I got from one of the, like a Dreams Time kind of thing, 1, 2, 3. I just want to show you, this was the houses that we saw when we were driving there. Okay. So compared to these, it's really very different. And then they also have like Wi-Fi and TV and really, really nice environment. And then I'll talk about the education in the next class. So these are the oils that are grown in our Ecuador farm. I put a few exclusive labels on them because I know they were exclusive. When we first started building our farms, nobody else had these oils. Of course, Young Living is the leader and people like to follow. And now currently there is a lot of, copycats who also selling Cobaiba and Ocotea, if you Google, and Palo Santo essential oils. But when we first started, when we first started, it was just us. And then Palo Santo essential oils, Ocotea, and Cobaiba Young Living was the first. And so I will talk a little bit about these separate oils. I love some of these, like Dorado Azul and Eucalyptus Blue were my favorite. The first 2, well, actually, back in 2012, these were one of the few first oils that I bought. There was the Dorado Azul, Eucalyptus Blue, Ocotea, and Cobaiba. When I first started with Young Living, I did not use the common essential oils because I had a lot of those. Before I had Young Living, I had a lot of Eucalyptus radiata, Eucalyptus globulus, ylang ylang, geranium. I had a lot of those. Those weren't special to me. These are special to me. If I were to join Young Living, I would want to buy something that nobody else has, right? So So I love this little video. I'd like to show it.
Gary Young, what is your favorite respiratory oil?
RC.
No, don't change your mind. Come on. Say your original one. For real.
Dorado Azul.
Dorado Azul. All right, Dana, you heard it. Right from Gary Young.
So I found this somewhere. I can't remember, but I knew that I know that this was Gary's favorite essential oil for respiratory, and this is actually a local weed. Hold on, there's something urgent that I need to attend to. I'm so sorry. Hold on, sorry. It's my daughter. Okay, so this is a local weed, and Gary found it that because it's aromatic, so he cut it and tested it, and then he found out that the Aboriginal use it for pneumonia and asthma. This plants, they would grind it up and then they would put it on their chests to help with this respiratory problems. And so even the local botanists didn't know what this was called, and so they asked Gary to name it. So he called it Dorado Azul. Azul means blue in Spanish, right? And I am guessing that he named it after the origin of El Dorado, the lost city of gold. There was a legend of the story of El Dorado, the lost city of gold, where it lied deep in South America. So this is like a gold, right? Look at the leaves; it's a bit golden. Okay, and this weed during the monsoon heavy rain season, when all the other plants drowned to death, and it even flourished in harsh weather. So this is a very resilient plant. And we can see that a lot of resilient plants have very high therapeutic properties, like Dorado Azul, like Palo Santo. When it's dead, then it gives you oil, right? Hawaiian sandalwood, when it's dead, it gives you oil. Frankincense, when you cut it, it gives you resin. Northern Lights black spruce, when you cut it, it gives you resin. And a lot of these live in very harsh environments and still flourish in harsh environment. It's very, very interesting. And the other oil is Palo Santo. This photo is taken in the Palo Santo forests that was already in the land. So when Gary bought the land, he didn't know that there was a Palo Santo forest in it. When he was exploring the land, he found the Palo Santo forest. And when we go and visit, we love going there to meditate, and the energy of the ground, it's amazing. It's very quiet. So actually all our farms are open to public, open to everybody. And when you have the time, when you have the chance, the opportunity to go to the Ecuadorian farm, to go to Finca Botanica, I encourage all of you to ask them to get one of those ATV and drive to the Palo Santo forests. Okay. And if you're not familiar with the Palo Santo, it's actually a very popular tree in South America. Everybody knows about this tree because it has a sacred property. People like to burn it to clean the energy field, to clean the room, and it also repels insects. It actually smells very much like an insect repellent. Gary used Palo Santo, basil, citronella, and then he would mix it with neem oil. And then we asked him can we use V6. He said, oh, you can use anything. I was just in Ecuador and it's easy to get neem oil. He would mix it together, and then he would use it to spray his horses to get rid of horse flies, because the horse flies would really make his horse very annoyed. So I use this as a recipe for my own insect repellent, Palo Santo, citronella. In Hong Kong, we can talk about insect repellent. I don't know if you can talk about that in the US. Is it? I'm in Hong Kong. We can easily talk about insect repellent. It's not anything like over the counter or anything. Palo Santo, citronella, and basil. I would mix it together in the same proportion. And then I would mix it. Actually, I make it with animal scent ointment, and then I apply it so it doesn't stick, like it doesn't evaporate as easily. Of course, you can use like witch hazel or distilled water with vodka, to mix it up and make a spray. But I find that if you do that, a lot of it goes to the floor. So I'd rather like apply it. It's really, really good. And it's also really good for itch. So Palo Santo, and I remember when I was in the farm, I brought back. In Hong Kong, I can also brought back like plants. There's no rule, there's no law against it, like no custom law against it. So every time when I go to a farm, I would bring back wood, and I brought back some Palo Santo wood, and I had it in my suitcase. And when I was going through leaving the country, they opened my suitcase. Obviously, I had like tons of oils and then wood. And then I remember the custom officer took this wood and he go, "Oh, Palo Santo." And then he closed my suitcase. It was like he knew what it was as soon as he saw it. So this is something that is like very sacred and very well cherished by the South Americans. Okay. It's multi-purpose use. I love this oil. And then cobaiba. And Gary was also, because he was researching on oils, he found that something called cobaiba. It is an aromatic tree that was from the Amazon jungle, and he read that there was something called a resin that would be tapped from a tree. And this oil, this was back in 2009 or something like that. And if you were here with Young Living back then, you would recognize Mark Stroida. And he was one of the researchers for Gary. He actually developed Sleek. He used to do the presentations for product launch in convention. He actually has an amazing Ningxia Red presentation from a convention when we launched the Ningxia Red of the current version. And he did a lot of research. And so Gary asked Mark to go to the Brazil jungle to find cobaiba. And then they found it. And why cobaiba? Because it's very high in beta-carophylline. Look up beta-carophylline. Remember the spelling? This was actually one of the first words that I learned on essential oil constituents, because it was such an interesting word. And Gary would talk about it all the time back in the days when I first started, because he just found it. And beta-carophylline, it works for everything. Look it up, write down the word and look it up, and then say like study. If you don't like to read study, you just write what is good, what does beta-carophylline do, right? So I have got a video that I think maybe I took from Mark's Facebook. Go follow Mark. Sometimes he shares his stories about his days with Gary. It's very interesting.
Go, come on, Ben.
And this is Chris Packer on the horse.
No le frene. No le jale las cuerdas. Okay. No le jale las cuerdas porque ahí se
Don't pull the reins, dude.
Wow.
Not fun. I would not want to do this. I'd be so scared I'd fall down and make a mess of myself. So Chris is still with Young Living. He now overlooks all the farms along with Brett and Corey. And Elang. I'd like to compare this with the Elang farm. And this is the Madagascar organic Elang farm. You can see that they're quite different. The energy is very different. And because of the hills, the rolling hills, it's very different. And Elang needs to be harvested in the morning when it is in full bloom. And the flowers, you can look up Gary Young Elang, and you'll see this video that Gary talked about, the Elang in our farm. It's an very interesting video where he talked about how to harvest them. They're handpicked and what flowers to choose. He talked about how you have to choose the yellow flowers that are in full bloom, not the green ones and not the brown ones. And most of the essential oils, most of Elang flowers that are harvested by hand in Madagascar are harvested by local people, and they are paid by weight. So the more you collect, the more you're paid, okay? Instead of paid by quality. So I find that sometimes that is one of the difference between us and other essential oil companies. And because of the environment, the Elang that the regular Elang and the Ecuadorian Elang also smell very different. And this is the other oil that is exclusive to Young Living is the Ecuadorian oregano. And you know how oregano is like super spicy? This is actually not as, oh, thank you, Karina. Yes, this is the video. I love it. This is one of the first videos I saw of Gary, like the first 2 years. I love this video. And so the Ecuadorian oregano, Gary said one time they were at the wellness center and he was doing raindrop with the raindrop set, and they ran out of oregano. And so they went to the distillery and took a bottle of this Ecuadorian oregano. They've tested it, they haven't bottled it. So they tried it, and then they noticed that it's not as spicy as the original regular oregano that we have. So this is actually very good for children, especially if you don't like the spiciness of the original oregano. This is really, really good to replace the regular oregano that is in the raindrop when people have really sensitive skin and when they find that the oregano is very spicy. It has very, very similar properties. Gary, in fact, I remember he said this actually is better. So you can do that. I hope after this, more people will buy this Ecuadorian oregano because I don't think people know enough of it. So this photo was taken by me in the bus. You can see the reflection. And this was Karen Hopkins' husband helping out in the farm. He was turning the oregano. So they need to be put under the shade for 5 days and turned 3 times a day. So this was after it's been turned, after it's dried for 5 days. And then this was the bread that is tested. This is a biscuit, I think, with oregano and without oregano. You see the mold? Well, this was tested in regular oregano, not Ecuadorian. But I encourage all of you to try it at home. I should do that because things in Hong Kong mold very quickly. I should try that. Get a piece of bread. Okay. All right. Interesting, isn't it? All right. This was another study of a test that they did from Dr. Cole Woolley. You can go follow him. He's been talking about frankincense. So Dr. Cole Woolley was sent to Oman to search for sacred frankincense back in the days. And when I met Cole, he was still in the middle of doing that. It was very interesting. He had written so many days full of treasures on his days searching for sacred frankincense for Gary, the experience. I urge you all to go and follow him, read everything. He's going to be at convention in the farm area. He will be sharing his experience with sacred frankincense. Okay, so this was I took these out of his Facebook. Again, oregano with staphylococcus. Everybody knows what this is, right? So tea tree, only this much. Clove, interestingly, very round. Helichrysum still works a little bit, not regular, not consistent. Cinnamon, very consistent. Oregano, extremely consistent, right? Who knows the product that we have that has oregano, cinnamon, and clove in it? Put it in the comments. We have a product that has oregano, cinnamon, and clove. Put it in the comments, okay? All right, very interesting. And then Ocotea. Ocotea was one of the first exclusive oils that we have. And I found this from Gary's blog. And for a few years, he's been studying an Ecuadorian oil, Ocotea, which has similar aroma and taste as cinnamon. I feel that it's quite different. And it can be applied and it can be taken as a dietary supplement. And I remember that, I can't remember where I learned it. He actually, when he first got the Ocotea oil, he would use it on the students in the Young Living Academy. He would give them 1 drop in a mouthful of water every day. And he was doing a lifelet analysis for these students, for these kids. And he found a lot of candida and parasites in these children. And obviously, it's very common, right? Like a lot of children has parasites because they play in the mud, they put everything in their mouths. They're not very good with their own personal hygienes. So, and he would, after that, after testing all these children, he would give them a drop of Ocotea in a glass of water every day. And after a month, he would test their blood again, and the candida and the parasite would be nowhere to be seen. So that's one of the things that he found Ocotea can do. You can put it under your tongue. It's a bit spicy. we always joke that if you don't like the smell of ocotea, you really need it. It's also really good, as I have found, you can easily found, this is the species, Ocotea quintos. Quintos is the species, and then you can see what it is actually really good for. Okay, it's a little bit spicy, but if you look up the studies, you can find a lot of good information on it. Okay, if you were to look at it like 5-10 years ago, you probably won't. But Young Living has really given a lot of notice to these exotic plants. So this study was back in 2017, and they were already studying a lot of it. Okay. And Gary also used the ocotea in a lot of emotional oils. Very interesting. I'll show you in a moment. And as we go through transformation emotionally, we also go through transformation physically. And I believe it has all to start with your mind and your emotions. And as you transform your body into a healthier new you, ocotea may provide you with some remarkable benefits. Isn't that interesting? He wrote this back in 2012, 10 years ago. All right, these are all the products that have ocotea in it. Well, he was very proud that because he put sleek in our toothpaste, all our toothpaste have ocotea. He put sleek essence in ocotea. I mean, he put ocotea in sleek essence. So because I don't like the taste of ocotea, I use sleek essence instead. So I would put it under my tongue. I actually should have a bottle here next to my desk. I don't know where it is. I would put it under my tongue a few times a day. It would really help you curb your sugar craving. It will help you like suppress your appetite. It would help you balance the things that you need to balance in your blood. It's really, really good. So I love sleek essence, but shake it before you use it because there's some sugar in the bottom. And don't worry about the sweetness because it's sweetened by stevia. So people who have to be concerned with their Nicole. Well, yes, Inner Defense has oregano, cinnamon, and clove. And so you know what Inner Defense is for now, right? After seeing that little petri dish, those petri dishes. So sleek essence, I love it. I always have a bottle in my handbag. Shake it before you put it under your tongue. You can put it in water. You can do it like 3 to 4 times a day, 2 to 3 drops in a glass of water. It tastes really good. And it will really, really help you balance the things in the blood that you need balancing. The sweetness, the ups and downs of, you know what I mean? So anyway, it's a great product. And don't worry about the stevia. It won't change your blood sugar level. And it also, interestingly, there is also common sense. It's also in common sense, acceptance, transformation, stress away. And why is it doubled? Release, One Heart, Australian Blue, Ocotea, Highest Potential, Dreamcatcher, Awaken, Journey On, One Voice, Sarah. You get an idea of what kind of oil, what kind of emotional aspect ocotea can do to you, right? Isn't that fascinating? Gary is so ahead of our times. It's insane. Okay. So, well, if you don't like the smell of ocotea, use Awaken instead. I love the oil of Awaken. I don't think it gets enough time, and I don't think it gets enough popularity on it, because I tell you about Awaken. Because Awaken, it's a blend of joy, present time, forgiveness, dreamcatcher, and harmony. It's sort of a feelings collection in a bottle. It really, really changed your life. So I encourage everybody to use Awaken and Transformation. Amazing stuff, really. So because we have ocotea in so many products, it's just like Northern Lights Black Spruce. We have it in so many products. And there were times when ocotea was out and we didn't have enough. We had to stop the production of all the stuff that we needed. So they have acquired a farm, an ocotea farm, right? And I love this. Actually, I got it from the official Young Living website, and how the farm got started. So Gary Young, really, he loves ocotea, and it was wild crafted and then transported. Even now, it's wild because Ocotea doesn't grow on our Finca Botanica. So it has always been wild crafted by hand by the local people, and it's transported into Finca Botanica to distill. However, and so we weren't getting enough of it. So in 2017, Young Living purchased 116 acres of land in Mera, and it has received the permit from the EPA to clear 14 acres so that we could plant the Ocotea tree. Okay, so now currently we have thousands of Ocotea tree, and we don't have to worry about the supply of Ocotea anymore. And we don't have to worry about the supply of all these products anymore, right? Who doesn't love transformation? I love transformation. Okay, I am showing you a little bit interesting information on peppermint. I got this information, and I know who feel like the peppermint, sometimes it has a funny taste. It doesn't smell like the one that we used to, because Gary would say here, and a lot of our peppermint now is from the Lappermint Partner Distillery. And Gary said in this D. Gary Young blog article that the altitude will affect the smell of the peppermint oil. And with that, the peppermint oil that we now have actually has more of the menthol smell, the grassy smell. If you open the bottle and leave it there, it will evaporate, and then it will give you back that regular smell. But I remember Gary always said that grassy smell is actually really helps you relax your muscles and really good with nerves. So so this is very interesting. The composition of soil in different areas will change the way plants grow in these areas. It will also change the oil that comes from the plant. The temperature, moisture level, and time and method of harvesting, amongst other things, will determine the quality and grade of an oil and its compound percentage. Harvesting a plant at the wrong time and distilling at the wrong time can destroy the therapeutic qualities of the extracted oil. For example, peppermint essential oil should contain between 38 and 47% of menthol to be therapeutic. If summer is wet and rainy, menthol will be approximately only 24%, but the oil will still be pure. It would just not be therapeutic. Isn't that fascinating? So I actually did a bit of research, and now that Lappermint is our primary supply of peppermint, you will start seeing essential oils from the Northwest United States in your orders. I got this from one of these letters. Because we're sourcing from this new location, you may notice a slight difference in the aroma of the previous bottle, as differences in environment, weather, and soil can affect the flavor and smell of the plant. The concept may already be familiar thanks to foods like chocolate or honey, whose taste and aroma are also clearly influenced by location, but it is still therapeutic, so you don't have to worry about that, okay? And interestingly, remember last time I showed you how I can buy oils on the internet and then make my own and sell it as organic? Peppermint is one of those that are super popular that you can buy from brokers or these suppliers. And sometimes they actually just sell menthol. As you can see here, they're selling menthol and they're not selling peppermint. The reason why I had to talk about the menthol here is because the menthol is actually what the peppermint smell is. And in fact, a lot of these essential oil companies actually just sell the menthol and call it peppermint, okay? And these are actually extracted, and look, it's USDA organic menthol. I remember when I first started with Young Living, because Young Living wasn't opened in Hong Kong yet, and I had a sort of like a Young Living something web email address, and I actually received an email from a broker selling me pure peppermint essential oil made from menthol crystals. He even showed me the photos. Back then, I didn't know this was such an important information. I didn't save the email. I thought it was junk and threw it away. And now I know this information is really important to teach and to share. Look, they are selling, mint oil, you see? And then menthol. They're all selling menthol. Menthol large crystals, menthol medium crystals, menthol powder, menthol small crystal, menthol 75 to 23%. And that's why I talk about the percentage just now. Okay. I can totally just buy this and bottle it and label it Apothecary a la Joanne and sell it as organic peppermint oil. But would it have the same effect as the ones we have? No, it won't. Okay, very easy to find. Very, very extremely easy to find and extremely cheap. So when you go to the marketplace and find mint oil or made from mint oil, what is it exactly, right? A lot of these are sold as food flavoring too, but even if they're food flavoring, doesn't mean that they are therapeutic, right? This Sigma Aldrich is a company that is owned by Merck, and they do sell a lot of these oils, okay? Look, product name, peppermint oil, and all certified. Is it from a natural source? Is it natural? What does it actually mean? Did you know that the definition of natural is anything that can exist in the natural world? That's a broad definition. Okay, another oil that we grow there is cinnamon bark. And I think a lot of you might remember, like I'm here as a myth buster. A lot of you may probably remember that cinnamon bark issue back in the days. And it was quite ridiculous when I was following the story. We never had any problem with the people in Hong Kong not believing that these oils were real. Because it's very interesting, we actually got these letters from the company. Your poop is natural. Hi, Krista. Your poop is definitely more natural than a lot of different things. And so I remember the cinnamon bark issue, right? And ended up, I call it a farce. It was a ridiculous thing. So they did the study, and the person who actually did the test, claimed that they found the synthetic compound in the cinnamon bark oil was because they were using a wrong GCMS machine. So when using a gas chromatography mass spectrometer, GCMS, instrument for essential oil testing, the computer will analyze the production of essential oils and identify them with the data that is in the database that came with the GCMS instrument. Therefore, it is especially important to use the correct and appropriate database for essential oil testing. In addition, it is important that the data and information are properly analyzed by a scientific professional who are professionally trained and experienced in essential oils. So, to cut the very long story short, when somebody buys a GCMS instrument, the company will ask you what you're using it for. If you tell them you're using it for makeup, they will give you, along with the GCMS instrument, a library of makeup ingredients so that you can match the ingredients, match the constituents that come out of the results. If you tell them that you are using it for essential oil testing, they will give you their essential oil library of compounds, of essential oil compounds to match. If you're using a GCMS for instrument for testing poop, for example, as Krista talked about it, when you put essential oil in it, you won't be able to test it correctly. And that is why Gary always said, people, when they ask for GCMS test results, do they really know how to read it? If you take your oil and bring it to a GCMS lab, a lab with a GCMS, does the person who interpret the results know how to read it? Are they the people who actually usually test essential oils? I actually have shown one of Taiwan's top essential oil expert in GCMS testing. He teaches in a university that is owned by one of our members, and I was invited to do a talk with them and to, understand and talk to them about essential oils. And I sat with him in a meeting and I showed him the test results of how Young Living tests essential oils, and he was amazed. He was amazed of how the theories, the processes that Young Living goes through in order to test an oil that is pure. And one of the test results that I showed him was the IRMS, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's the IRMS machine. Okay. Hold on a second. My cat is calling. I think she's being locked in somewhere. Anyway, I'll go back to him later. So, and what happened in the cinnamon bark event was that the person, first of all, the person who tested the GCM, who was interpreting the GCMS results was not a professional. The machine that tests the essential oil, the instrument was tested the cinnamon bark was not an instrument made for testing essential oils, meaning that that test results is actually, you can totally throw it out because it's not even valid. And it's sort of, I still remember that I heard they said, the people in the Young Living lab told me, this is sort of like a secondary grade, a secondary high school student testing something in a science lab because he just learned how to test it, and then saying that this is not the pure. So anyway, so other things is like cinnamon oil. You can easily buy it online again, bulk organic cinnamon leaf essential oil. Anyway, our oil is actually cinnamon bark. And when you get cinnamon oil, do you actually know whether it's from leaf or from bark, right? Organic cinnamon leaf essential oil, the cost is $1.20 per 15 ml. And if I were to sell it, I can totally label it, like mark it at $10 and make a whooping 9 times profit. So it's very, very easy to buy. And they even show you the GCMS results and everything and certified it and everything. But will you be willing to take it orally? Will you be willing to put it in a capsule and swallow it? I totally would not. So it's not about essential oils. It's about the purity. Oh, and another one is I took this out of the presentation I got from the Young Living Convention. And this is the Avnor. This was a typical lavender oil GCMS. It's tested with a 60-meter coil in a GCMS machine, okay? GCMS instrument, and this would be the results, okay? And this would fall within the requirement of the ISO requirement, which is set by Dr. Ave Casabianca, whom I talked about last week. And I just Googled and I found this GCMS test results of this brand, lavender, organic lavender alkalifolia from Bulgaria. Remember what I talked about last time? The lavender oil from Bulgaria? And here it says, comments from Robert Tisseron. I think this is an excellent organic lavender oil. Conforms to the ISO standard for Bulgarian lavender oil, except that the terpene for oil is slightly high, but this does not concern me. Okay, so this, we can bottle this, test it, and then say that it's pretty good. It conforms to the test results. Interestingly, I found Merck, GCMS, the Sigma Aldrich company, the GC analysis of the lavender oil, and it is done by a 30-meter GCMS instrument. And remember how Gary always talk about you have to use an instrument with 60-meter coil. 30-meter coil is sort of like trying to spread somebody's pocket content. Like say, okay, if I were to ask you to spread out the content in your handbag over on a table, and if you use a very small table, will you be able to spread out everything? You won't be able to, right? If you use a bigger table, if you spread it on the floor, you'll be able to spread everything on the floor. So what the 30-meter column and the 60-meter column is just that. In the GCMS instrument, which I will show in the Northern Lights class, when there's a coil inside. So what the machine does is actually you put the oil there, it shoots like a gas into the machine, and through heat and the gas, the compounds in the essential oil will be spread out in that copper coil. And then the machine, the instrument, will read what is in the copper coil. Okay, so most of the GCMS instruments uses a 30-meter coil. Young Living is very adamant we have to use a 60-meter coil. It means that you're trying to spread out the compounds in a small area of a larger area. If you spread out in a smaller area, obviously you won't be able to see as many compounds as possible, right? So this would be what it would look like. Lavender flower essential oil, this 30-meter coil result compared to this 60-meter coil results. You can obviously see so much more, okay? And this is what most essential oil company do not understand. Okay, other than the GCMS, we also, as I said, we also have another machine instrument called IRMS, isotopic ratio mass spectrometer. I know a lot of people don't like these scientific terms, but I find that is really important to know. It's because what is IRMS machine instrument does is comparing, and I know that a lot of the essential oil company mostly just talk about GCMS, right? Is to see the compounds. But all our oils actually have to go through 13 tests, testing the density, the viscometry, the refractometry, the refraction index, and the most important is actually the IRMS. What this instrument does is, and I would go back to the cinnamon thing. Okay, actually, I find this actually very important. Since I issued that report, our team has continued to look into this matter, in addition to continue to analyze our oils, and they have held meetings with some world's leading experts. These experts are the same people who use the technology to identify the shoe bomber of the marathon, Boston Marathon, and identify the suspect behind the 2001 anthrax scare. So these are the labs. This was 2016 was before Young Living bought the IRMS. And these are the government labs that actually have that IRMS instrument to test the oil. Okay. And these labs were actually our third-party testing labs. It's the labs that the government also use. And eventually, Young Living decided that we need to have the IRMS machine instrument ourselves. In fact, we have not only one, but two of these IRMS instruments. Each of these instruments costs over $1 million US. And in North America, Young Living is the only private company that owns this instrument. All the other institutes that own this instrument are either government labs or university labs. So this puts Young Living, the D. Gary Young Research Institute, on par with government labs and university labs, okay? And what this IRMS instrument does is, interestingly, I will use the analogy that the Taiwan general manager loves to use to compare the GCMS and the IRMS. So a GCMS would be able to test the constituents, right? So say, for example, you have a swimming pool and you've got a bunch of kids. And you know what children do in swimming pools, right? They pee. And a GCMS would be able to, if you test the water with the GCMS, it would be able to tell that somebody peed, right? But it won't be able to tell you how old the person is, what ethnicity that person is, what he ate. But with an IRMS, if you test the water that somebody just peed in with an IRMS, the result would be able to tell you what ethnicity, whether he's white or black or Asian, what they just ate, and not only the pee. Isn't that really cool? So this IRMS, actually, what I remember is they test the carbon in the oil or something. And this was what do you want? Can you hear my cat meowing? Okay, hold on. Here. All right, okay. So this was what actually we use. Every product, every oil have to go through this IRMS test, and it has to match. So it's really, really, really cool. So for anybody who is in the scientific world, when they hear this, they'll go, oh, wow. And this is what the response of the Taiwanese expert that I met with when I showed him the IRMS results of our essential oil testing. And he was in awe. Okay, and other than growing essential oils and aromatic plants, we actually also we have a fruit farm. And what does the fruit farm do is that it grows banana because Gary used to tell us that the worms so we have a worm farm because the poop of the worm is great fertilizers. And the worms love to eat banana peel. So that's why we grow bananas, because so that we can throw the peel to feed the worms so that the worm can give us poop to fertilize the soil. And then we also have coconut, we have mango, we grow papaya, which in South America they call pawpaw, and then sweet potato, which gives us yacon. It's the yacon syrup that we have. It's like a sweet potato. And then we have cocoa beans. Oh, did you know that the cocoa beans from Young Living, comparing to regular chocolates, you know how sometimes when you eat chocolate, it gives you this bitter and heaty, you get a sore throat. I get a sore throat sometimes when I eat chocolate. The reason is, and I learned this in Ecuador, it's because when you fry the cocoa beans, a lot of people want to cut short the production time and the cost, so they fry it in high heat. So they cut off the production time, and then they will already get chocolate from cocoa from the cocoa beans. But with Gary, he found that when you are frying the cocoa beans in high temperature, it kills a lot of the enzymes and the nutrients and the benefits of cocoa beans. So he has requested that our producer who makes our cocoa bean to fry it at low temperature, although it will mean that it will have to be fried for longer and the cost will be higher to preserve the nutrients and the enzymes. So whenever Young Living comes out with chocolate, you have to go buy it because it is not the same as the regular chocolate that you can buy in the market. Isn't that really cool? Everything in Young Living is better. And they also grow vegetables. And then we have a goat farm. The goats love people. And from my experience growing up in Hong Kong in this big metropolitan city, I'm used to animals being afraid of people. And when I went to the farm and saw the goats, it's amazing how they love people. And the reason why animals would love people is because they're very, very well cared for. And that's why they love people. And the goats would give us goat milk, and that's where we get our goat's milk and cheese and raw goat's milk to make our skincare products. And then we also obviously get sheep poop to help with the fertilizers, right? These are the cocoa beans. And this is the restaurant. And so what are the food for? It's for providing for our workers and also for the children who goes to the academy. Because many of the students come from poor, very poor or broken family, and they usually either cannot afford to buy food or they will eat very bad quality food, not very nutritious. And Gary knew that nutritious food is really important for growing body and children and brain health. And so he was very adamant that these children will be provided for one organic lunch while they're at school. So that's what these farms provide for. And so that he makes sure that our farmers also get well fed, right? And these are these are my own photos, banana trees and papaya trees. It's very, very happy. Mary and Jacob, like the Youngs, they love to call it like paradise on earth, right? I don't like it as much over there because I don't like the heat and the humidity, but it is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's magical. It's a magical place. And so these are the coconut. Their coconut tastes a little bit different than the ones that we have in Asia. And this is the farm, and these are goats. And this is me with a baby goat, and I have a little video here. I want to show you how the baby goats love people.
Hey, Gary said we can adopt it.
Right? Oh my God, they're so cute. Okay, and then this is our worm farm, and Gary would explain. This is my own video. Gary was explaining the worms, and this is expert taken out from the book. And this was a photo I took when I was at my Go retreat with Gary, and he was talking about how the worm poop comes in here, and then it gets put into the. I didn't quite understand what he was saying because this was 2012, and I was just starting with Young Living, and it took me a long time to understand his accent. But anyway, it was good fun. I'll show you this video. I don't know what to look for.
Oh, there he is.
Well, they don't mind if you pick them up and hold them.
Oh, okay.
Sure, sure.
Get one.
Eat one.
That's a little bitty one.
Yeah.
Is there bigger ones?
Here. That's a big.
So I have no idea what we're looking for. I just saw soil, and then I did see like little worms moving around. So this was our worm farm. Gary was very proud of it. And then we also have brick machine from South Africa, because when they were trying to build the academy, they would need to find bricks, and it would be very expensive to transport cement. So Gary found this brick machine that you only need to use dirt and water and very little bit concrete in cement in order to make bricks. But because the weather in South Africa is very different than in Ecuador, Ecuador is very, very humid. It took them 6 months to work out the ratio of the water, concrete, and dirt to make sure that the bricks would last in the wet condition. So this was how we build a lot of the buildings in the farm and the Young Living Academy. And so this is what Gary thought of, like everything, right? And then in the Nepal lesson, you'll also see how this brick machine came into become very useful. And when you are at the farm, you will be able to visit this brick factory. The video that I showed previously in the beginning of the workshop showed you part of the brick factory also. And so we're coming to an end. I would like to also show you what kind of father Gary was. And when they moved down to Ecuador, he actually brought the kids, the whole family. He moved down there for 5 years. And there was a big tree behind the house where Gary built his own house. And Jacob said to him, Dad, I think it'd be really cool if we can have a tree house behind in the tree. And so I think everybody would be thinking, like, if you build a tree house, this is what you think, right? You build a little house where your kid can go in and hide and things like this. And this was what Gary built. A house with 2-bedroom. These are my own own photos. A house with 2-bedroom, a shower, a bathroom with a shower, and a kitchen, like an open kitchen, built around the tree trunk. This is how big the tree is. Okay, and it also had this like an elevator. An elevator, and this elevator goes up to this platform. This platform has a zip line that goes to the pool, goes over to this part, go over behind here, and then you can slide down the swimming pool in this slide. And then he would let the kids go to his house after school, and so every day after school, they would send a school bus and pick up the kids from the Young Living Academy to go to the farm. And Jacob and Joseph would play with the children there, and the children would play here in the pool, play in his house, and ride jet ski. This was scary. This is Gary's house on the farm. And so to give you an idea, this they have a tent here. Normally this is the restaurant. This was the lake that I showed you. This is the restaurant. You see these buses, and then this was the old wellness center. Now it doesn't look like this. You can see the wellness center in the video in the beginning. I'm going to post the video in the group. So this was the wellness center, the old one. And then this is the distillery. This is where the covered area is. And this was Gary's house. Okay. And this is the lake. And these are the jet skis. So the kids would come after school and play jet ski on the lake and water ski. And Gary loved children. And so these are some other photos that I found from another direction. So this is the lake. You can see that this is the distillery. This was Gary's house. And this is the other direction of the restaurant. So this side of the restaurant, and you see this bridge. And this is the bridge, okay? And this is the tree house. You can take the elevator up here, and then there's a zip line that comes across. So funny. Beautiful, beautiful. So that was the end of it. So actually this was actually how he got sick, was in December 2010. December 10, 2010, Gary went into the Amazon jungle, and he obviously was sleeping in a tent, and he woke up with a bite on his side, and it was bleeding. He put oils on it, and then the next day he started having a fever. And I will talk more about it later on, and no one knew what it was. But it wasn't going to stop him from searching for healing plans for himself and the world. So eventually that's what led to his passing. But in the next class, we're going to talk about the birth of Young Living Academy, Nova Vita Wellness Center, now called Wellness Center. Previously, it's called Nova Vita Clinic. and how copycats come about to steal everything that Young Living had and made it their own. So I'm going to talk about that next time. And for now, I will post some other videos into the group, then you can all watch and then invite your friends and do a rewatch, do a replay, do a watch party. You're all welcome to use the information here. And I will see you next time. And if you have any questions, ask me in the comment and I'll read them and I'll reply. Okay, well, have a great weekend, you guys, and have a great Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.